Hi, in this video, I'll be doing a quick demo to showcase the IAM role credential attack scenario, where we have a malicious attacker who managed to get the temporary credential associated with your EC2 instance, and then to start to call the AWS APIs within your environment. And then we can showcase how can you use the Amazon GuardDuty as well as its findings information to take the proactive actions to remediate those risks. Now let's start. Just a quick recap of our demo environment, especially if you haven't watched the previous part 1 and part 2 demo. What we did before is we used the Amazon GuardDuty to detect the EC2 and S3 bucket related attacks, and also use the GuardDuty findings information to take the actions to remediate those risks. In this demo, we will manually to extract the IAM credential information from this compromised EC2 instance and use that to issue the API calls from my local laptop, which has been shown here. And those API calls would be issued against the API endpoint in AWS. So we can see whether or not those requests can go through. And of course, as a result, the relevant GuardDuty's finding will be raised. We can look into what type of information that we can use to remediate those risks. We will use the Amazon Systems Manager Session Manager to log into the compromised instance and then to retrieve those IAM credential information. Now we select this compromised instance and then to click the Start Session within the Session Manager. Let's go. Now we are on the Session Manager, and then we will use this command and then to retrieve those IAM credentials information. As we can see, the request has gone through successfully. And we can see the access key ID, secret access key, and token information have been shown up here. These are the information we need to conduct those attacks. So let's drop it down. Since we just retrieved the compromised instance IAM role credentials, now let's use my local laptop here to conduct those simulated attack. I just open up this local terminal and I will start to create a user profile. Region US is to 1. And I will do config set. Now I'm actually creating the access key. I will copy the access key here. And then I'll also create the access key ID for the bad user. Key ID, and let's copy that over. Cool. The last one is we need to give it token. Token. We also need to copy the token that we just jot down. Here you go. All right, cool. So we are good to go. Let's try one of the command AWS DynamoDB. Let's try to list the tables and using the bad user profile. Let's see. Great. So now we can use this profile to get access and then to query the DynamoDB list, and then it tells us within this environment, this is the table name, right? So which tells us the profile actually works, and we managed to intrude into this AWS environment. And we would continue to start to issue other command. AWS IAM. I will try to get the user profile bad user. See, okay, this one doesn't work, and we got the error, which telling us this user is not authorized to perform this IAM get user activities. So which means it could be caused by the IAM role that we retrieve doesn't have this permission. So that's fine, we can leave it here. But basically this is by intention because Once we have this action has been conducted, and then it would trigger a AWS GuardDuty findings. After I issue the simulated attack, now we have a switch back to the GuardDuty page, and we're looking at the findings. I would scroll in here so we can look this part more clearly. And we have ranked the findings. Now we notice that there's one high severity finding. If we click and look into it, we can see it is related to the unauthorized access, IAM user, and instance credentials. So which means that the GuardDuty has detected someone actually used a credential associated with this EC2 instance, and then to call out the AWS APIs. And also there's an IP address here. Let's look into that in more details. It is a high severity findings because any attacker with this credential can call whatever APIs that this credential allow them to do. So it's a very high severity impact to the account because the attacker basically can do whatever the permission allows them to do. So we need to take action as quickly as possible. And we look down a little bit and it gives us some more information and details around the resource affected. As we can see here, this is an access key resource type that's been impacted. And if we look down the username, it's actually the IAM role that's associated with the EC2 instance that has been breached. If we look down a bit, instance details telling us more information about this instance, and also the IAM instance profile, instance tags, and the networking information. And one thing to highlight is that, again, the GuardDuty will show us the actor IP address. This IP address actually was my local laptop IP address because I issued those attacks locally from my laptop. We just demonstrate the attack scenario, and we verify that GuardDuty managed to create the findings towards those attacks. Now let's take actions to remediate that. We will take a two-step approach manually so you can understand what happened behind the scene easily. The first step is to revoke the IAM credential, so all the users, including the legal and the malicious users, would not be able to call the AWS API using the credential anymore, which means that the transaction can be interrupted. But given the high severity of this attack, it is still well worth for us to take the actions to remediate the risk as soon as possible. And then once that's been done, the next step is we will try to resume the service using the new credential that's been created. So now let's look into that. To revoke the IAM role, now I have come to the IAM page, and under the roles, I look for this compromise, the IAM role, and then I go to the revoke session tab. There's a button here, revoke active session. I can click on the button, and I can acknowledge the activities would revoke the sessions, and then I click on the button to double check. Okay, cool. So now the session has been successfully revoked. And if we switch to the permission, we can see there are new policies that are being created. If we click into one of it, the revoke old session, we can see it's about denying all the actions. And also to validate this from the malicious laptop, I have reissued this command which has been gone through successfully, and now I got an authentication error which can confirm the original credential have actually been revoked. The second step is to reissue a new IAM credentials for the EC2 instance. To trigger that, we have to stop and start the EC2 instance rather than to do a restart, because simply doing a restart would not trigger that process. So what we do here is we find the impacted or compromised instance, and then we do a stop instance, we stop, and then we would start it later on. So now the EC2 instance has been up and running again. Let's switch to the session manager. And if we issue the same command that we used before, we will get a new credential which we can use to resume our applications and services. So this concludes the session. We used the GuardDuty to detect the IAM credential breaching related activities, and also use the information we got from the GuardDuty findings to remediate the risks. In the production environment, of course, you can use the service like Lambda to build automation activities to remediate those risks. I hope you enjoyed this session, and if you find it useful, please give it a like, and welcome to subscribe to my channel. Thank you, and bye for now.